Hello everybody, my name is Brady and we are back with another React video, and today we're going to be checking out more from Mr. Beat. So previously I was doing just his videos on the US presidential elections, but I put those aside because I wanted to check out some of his other stuff. He has such a big video catalog, it would be a shame if I dedicated all my time to this one thing when he has so much more to offer. So I'm checking out some of his other stuff, and to my delight I discovered he's a musician. And he has songs about every US president, including Trump. He got on that real quick. So that's really exciting. When you mix education and music together, it can only go well for me. It's either going to be great for the right reasons or fantastic for all the wrong reasons. That's my philosophy when it comes to educational music. Like, it can't really do wrong. If it's bad, it's like so corny that it's hilarious. If it's good, it's gonna stick with you for the rest of your life. That's how educational music kind of is. So I am really excited to see what Mr. Beat does. I had a lot of teachers personally who were in bands, and hearing them talk about their musical experience in their, you see a little twinkle in their eye. It's really awesome seeing teachers have other things that they do, and mixing those together, like that's really cool. So let's check out the George Washington song. We're gonna do a little bit of breakdown probably. I'm not sure to what extent. We'll see how the song's made up. I don't even know what genre Mr. Beat makes, so this should be really cool. Let's get it started. Okay, I wasn't sure what we were gonna get musically. Those like heavy keys, it's got some bounce to it. I wasn't sure if we were gonna just get like something weird with like thematically fitting the presidents with like the little drummers and the flutes or whatever. It was gonna be something thematically like that, but no, it seems like this is more like his musical style or something is the vibe that I'm getting, which honestly I think I'd prefer, because like it would probably allow more diversity from president to president, because like when you think of like the founding father generation, musically I'd say they all have kind of a similar vibe that I get when I look at them. It's pretty epic.
Washington, the first president, revolutionary hero.
Okay.
Father of the country, the Continental Army, you held the new country together.
Okay, this is probably the last little touch I'm gonna give when it comes to like the musical style. His voice has always been kind of interesting. He has kind of a nasally thing, and it reminds me a little bit of, what's it called? They Might Be Giants. I don't know if you're familiar with their work, but they are fantastic, and they're some of my favorite like quasi-educational stuff that they do. They have the paleontologist song, what's another one? Mesopotamians. There's a song, it's called Build a Birdhouse in Your Soul. There's something about like how he sings in that song that reminds me of Mr. Beat's singing voice. It's not quite there. It's also kind of like, feels like a mix of Hot Dad. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the YouTuber Hot Dad. He has a very interesting singing musical style. It's a little bit more electronic than this sounds, but like I kind of get those. Kind of a mix of those two so far.
He made his mark in the militia.
Oh, that's different.
Years war. He lived an aristocratic lifestyle like many British before. But when the British acted up, he became commander-in-chief. And the war he proved to everyone that he was born to lead.
Okay, there's a lot to break down there. Like because to do a whole biography of George Washington in one song, like he lived a very full life, despite the fact that he didn't live as long as a lot of the presidents that would follow him. He did have a lot. So 7 Years' War, which on this side of the pond, we call that the French and Indian War. That's just the manifestation of the 7 Years' War in the New World, where it's the British and the would-be Americans, who are also the British, fighting against the French and the Indians in the West. And that resulted in the British winning a bunch of land in the West, and that's one of the big conflicts that actually created more tension that built to the American Revolution, because like when they won this land in the West, the British coffers were not doing too well. They were having some money troubles, and they didn't really want another conflict for a little while. But the Americans are just like, yes, we want to go west. Let's take this land. Let's take it right now. And that was a little bit of tension there, because the British were trying to stop expansion because they didn't want the Americans to do something stupid and start another big conflict with the natives that the British army would eventually end up having to fight or fund. That's not good. Like, protecting the frontier was like a big thing that the Americans complained about the British not doing, but also the Americans, by virtue of how they often behaved, made the frontier less safe. So that's a thing.
He lived an aristocratic lifestyle like many British people.
Aristocrat.
But when the British acted up,
Boston Massacre.
he became commander-in-chief. And the war he proved to everyone that he was born to lead.
So his pacing is pretty fast, so I'm not going to break down like every little line he says here, but him being born to lead, I think that there is something there. Like, that might seem like it's like just a corny line or whatever, but no, I think there's something that isn't necessarily something that you can teach that George Washington had. He had a certain poise, a certain quiet charisma with his men. There were many many potential and attempted coups, trying to like stop the American army to take it over or whatever. There's a whole bunch of problems that occurred in the early stages, and honestly, I think it would have been worse if Washington wasn't such a respectable leader. I think the fact that people respected him actually made it a little better, despite the fact that it was a pretty sorry, bad state that they were in. I mean, like, the people were in their right to be pissed off. Like, his army was not getting paid. Their conditions were terrible. They kept on trying to get stuff for them, but the government wasn't helping. It was true garbage administration. But George Washington was able to stop a mutiny by putting his glasses on. It's the famous story of, like, he puts his glasses on, and when he's reading something, he's just like, oh, sorry, in my service to my country, I am going blind. And it's a funny little story, because, like, apparently that stopped the mutiny, and I just imagine them doing the sad, ugly anime cry, like, George Washington, commander-in-chief guy, and, like, all his men just breaking down. That's always the image I had in my head. But, like, yeah, he had something special.
Find some major setbacks in Brandywine Valley Forge. He always reminded his troops what they were fighting for. He never liked Paul.
I should say this one thing. George Washington, like, not the best military tactician. And he talks about, like, some setbacks or whatever. In general, yeah, see what I did there. George Washington was not the best military tactician. He was kind of that inspiring leader, and it's good to have both skills, but he leaned a little heavily in that one direction. But he was also a bit humble, I suppose, and willing to step aside every once in a while and let other people convince him that he's wrong. He wasn't a hard ass in that sense. Like when the French come in and he's starting to talk with different French commanders and stuff, he'll realize, okay, they might know what they're doing. Like, he wanted to end the war in New York, and they're like, no, we gotta end it in Yorktown, which is not in New York. And he's like, okay, we'll try that. We'll try your plan. and that plan ended up working. So honestly, his willingness to listen to people is also a very strong characteristic of him.
Politics never liked to play that game, but the new country needed a president, so they just forced him in. He remains the only president to receive 100% of the electoral votes.
That is true. Like, in the early stages, it's a very different political system that we had back then from now. While a lot is the same, not many people could vote. It was the landed masses, and when the electors were choosing, they had to choose two people because they were voting for the president and the vice president, though they weren't on the same ticket. So they had to vote for somebody who was not in their state as well. They could vote for one person in their state and one from out of their state. So it's very likely that a lot of the... I actually haven't looked at a lot of people's other choices and lined it up with the states, but like it's very likely that if they were able to just use their two votes on people from their own state, some places would have been more likely to just pick two people from their own state. But they had to pick somebody from out there. So George Washington, he was one of the big guys on the scene. So it's very unlikely that if he wasn't people's first pick, that he wouldn't be their second pick. And being somebody's second pick sometimes is what matters in elections. You'll find when watching his U.S. election series, I talked about that a whole bunch. Like, a lot of people benefited from being people's second pick as well. George Washington, though, I don't know who could have beaten him. I've always said maybe Ben Franklin if he wasn't old as dirt, but I don't know. George Washington, he was on top of the world.
George Washington.
The chorus really gives me those hot dad vibes. The creator, not the description of a person. Precedence. There we go. The president who set the precedent. That's George Washington right there. One of the great things that he did early on was establish the cabinet. I think that's one of the big ones. The cabinet is not something that's written into the Constitution. He decided, okay, I am a little insecure about my education. I wish I was a little bit more learned than I actually was and I knew about all these things, but I don't, so maybe I should rely on some people who know a little better. So created the Secretary of State position, Treasury, War. Like, he has all these people who know what they're doing a little bit better. And yeah, I think the cabinet was a good call. I think if we ended up having somebody a little bit more egotistical, not a very good delegator, it would have been a little bit messier at the start, because you have somebody who doesn't know anything about, like, let's say economics, just going all in on making economic decisions. That could fall apart. And I think one of the strong things about George Washington is that he knew his faults.
He didn't belong to a political party. He hoped that no one would. He warned about foreign influence, said it was no good.
Yeah, George Washington was not actually a Federalist, though he's formally, well, I guess he wasn't formally part of the Federalist Party, but, like, he sided with them, like, almost all the time. That's why probably a huge reason why Thomas Jefferson left the cabinet. He didn't like parties. He didn't like political parties. He didn't want political parties to form. But also, he didn't really want to give this emerging Democratic Republican group a whole lot to work with. He didn't really want to give a whole lot of ground as well, so naturally there were going to be parties. He's just like, let's just get behind the leader. Okay, come on, let's get behind the leader and be cool. George Washington was not a Democrat by any means. Small d Democrat, not talking about the current party yet. Yeah.
He listened to dissenters, he gave every voice a chance. But if it clashed with the Constitution, he would have to pass.
he would have to pass. I think that's what
With the Constitution, he would have to pass.
I think that's what that says. I'm not sure. I'm not very good at making this stuff out. I doubt there's like a lyrics page for this, but who knows? I don't know. That's an interesting line because clashing with the Constitution is really up for interpretation. One could argue that the Washington administration really pushed the boundaries of what the Constitution is. It was supposed to be like, if you're not given these direct powers, if it isn't explicitly given in the Constitution, then you don't have those powers. But during his administration, they decided, but the Constitution seems to give some implied powers. Like, it doesn't explicitly say this, but it is implied that we could do this for the betterment of the people or whatever. You know, the establishment of the national bank, that's one of the big things. Like, one of the early debates is like, does the government have the power to establish a national bank? Well, it doesn't say it in the Constitution, therefore they shouldn't be able to do it, question mark? And they decided, no, it's implied that we can do this to make the country a generally more prosperous place or whatever. It's implied. You got to read between the lines, and that's kind of the debate over interpreting the Constitution forever. Like, do you take it as plain language? If so, we should probably have way more amendments than we currently do. Or do you try to interpret it in ways that apply better to the modern times? Because using it from back then, sometimes it doesn't translate as well to the modern day. So that's the thing.
But if it clashed with the Constitution, he would have to pass. He helped design Jay's Treaty, stop the rebellion. He warned against permanent alliances with any of the foreign world. We named our capital after.
So the Jay's Treaty is often underrated in history. Like, a huge part of George Washington's presidency was trying to not get into another war. And I think that whole tension kind of is just building slowly until we get to the War of 1812. There's just this constant threat or fear that America is going to get like stepped on by these European powers while it's vulnerable. So we're big, but we feel so small in this world. There's kind of this mentality like they're making us feel small. They're throwing their weight around, and we don't like that. We don't want to be treated like that. So there are plenty of people who are thinking like, let's go to war with France. Let's go to war with the British. Let's pick this side against this side, or let's do something. But George Washington decided he wanted to remain neutral, which honestly meant he had to eat a little bit of crap. When it came to the British, they were not willing to give a whole lot of ground in treaties. And one of the big problems that would haunt the United States going forward is impressment. Like, they would just kind of come onto American ships and take people that they suspected of being runaways from the British Navy, because there were a lot of runaways from the British Navy. And yes, they did end up finding some, but it's like the question of, are they allowed to should they be allowed to just search a neutral party's ship like that, just throwing their weight around? Like, in principle, is that okay? And a lot of people disagreed with that, and that sort of mentality like built into like the War of 1812 that would go on later on. And then we got real mad and just like, not only do we not want to be our citizens to be impressed by the Navy, we also will take Canada so we don't have to worry about those filthy, smelly Europeans having this influence over the area around here. We want them off of the continent as much as we can get them off of there. Like, and to a degree, I get that, because they were being picked on a lot. It was a bit ambitious, though. We don't do too well when we go into Canada.
And a whole state. He never wanted to be president, but I guess that was his fate. I guess that was his fate. He was unable to have biological children because of contracting smallpox when he was younger.
I always forget that part when George Washington, like, I know I've learned that in the past, but whenever it comes to, like, why did he not have children, I'm always just like, what was the reason again? I know there's a reason why he couldn't do it, but yeah, I always say, like, he was firing blanks. I don't know, but I guess that's the thing. I don't really understand, I guess I didn't really understand the long-term impact of smallpox. A lot of people got it, and it seems like a lot of them did have children, so I don't know how rare of a condition like that would be.
George Washington, first president, revolutionary hero.
Dude, this is totally made in Movie Maker. I'm pretty sure this song is over 10 years old. I believe I checked the day at the beginning, and I recognized, like, I used to make videos on Movie Maker back in the day, long before this channel, and they had that little color filter. I recognize that's totally Movie Maker. Wait, Movie Maker? Yeah, Movie Maker. That's what it is. All these filters are so cheesy and fun.
George Washington, first president, revolutionary
Oh, is this from that George Washington show? A lot of people have told me to watch this. I've never seen it. Apparently, like, there's this whole, I think it's a mini-series on George Washington, and I've been told to check it out. I don't know if it's any good or not. Maybe, oh, never mind. I don't know what that is. This is just a car commercial. Probably. Dude, I wonder what the Trump song's like. All right, so that's pretty rad. Oh yeah, President's Day. They do like a President's Day like car sale thing like everywhere, don't they? Isn't that a thing? So that's probably what this is about. Oh, I wonder if there's like enough cool President's Day car commercials out there that are funny enough that it would be worth checking out a bunch of them on video. I think that might actually be a gem of an idea. I don't know, but this is fun. I like Mr. Beat's style. The song, it's clearly on the older side. It's cheesy, as is a lot of educational music, but that doesn't mean bad coming from me. Like, I think cheesy is so fun when it comes to educational music, and it's the kind of stuff that really sticks with you, like the dramatic delivery of revolutionary. I can't sing personally, but like I really find this to be a lot of fun, and I'm curious to what his other songs are going to end up sounding like. I'm excited to get around to John Adams, because you know I have feelings for that man. Yeah, that was cool. It's a glorified picture of George Washington, and I think we can recognize that. Mr. Beat knows, like, the complexity in George Washington's character for sure. And I'm not going to, like, get on him for, like, omission or anything like that. This is, like, a glorified George Washington song, and the things he said in it are not, like, wrong. But, like, if you are taking on George Washington, like, there are some downsides to the guy. Like, it's hard to do a song about a guy during that time, like an aristocrat during that time, and not take on things like slavery. That's always, like, the awkward part when we end up praising George Washington, because that's always there, and we have to kind of, like, recognize that and be like, okay, that's there. This is definitely a thing, and a lot of the things we're saying are, even if we're praising him, they are with the knowledge that he has a very deeply flawed character. So, yeah, that is also a thing. This was fun, though. I think this was really cool, and I'm excited to see some more of what Mr. Beat has done. Not just his songs, but a lot of his stuff. Like, he has those comparison videos that I'm very interested in. I might do one of those from my own state. I believe he compared Rhode Island to Delaware or Maryland. It might have been Delaware. And as a Rhode Islander, I feel obligated to check that one out. Do a little bit of my own state's history. That could be cool. All right. So I've rambled for a while, so I'm going to get out of here. All right. Thank you guys for watching. That was a lot of fun. If you have any cheesy educational music you want me to check out, pop it in the comment section below. Also, we are doing the charity thing for the Native American Heritage Association, and we've made about $300 for them, and that's pretty sick. So if you want to contribute to that, it's on any of the videos on this channel, and we're going to try to raise $10,000 this year. We'll see if we can do that. I don't know if we can, but we're going to try. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow with another video. All right.